The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The empty seat. Who was actually just that, an empty chair in your office because you couldn't find someone to fill it. So it just sat there costing you money with all its fancy ergonomic features. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can make it easy to fill that seat with the right candidate, with nearly 60% of businesses finding someone to interview in the first week alone. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
Welcome back to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and Mr. Taylor, whose writings on the industry you can regularly read over on The Wrap, and his musings on the Mission Impossible movies you can still listen to on Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. He and I are recording this week's show on Sunday, May 10th, 2026, which is, of course, Mother's Day here in the States. So happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there, somewhat belatedly, because this show goes up on Tuesday the 12th. But your mom, Drew, what did you do there? Card, flowers, what?
Card, yep. She got it in time. It's always a little touch and go, Jim, as you know, trying to time out a card getting to the other coast. But she said she got it, so you know I'm in the clear, Jim.
There we go. You're a good son. Okay, now
I try. Yeah.
There we go. Now, in my case, of course, I lost my mom last September. She was 93. I had a good long life, and did drive down to Massachusetts yesterday to bring some flowers to the gravesite. And it was, what was funny is I was trying to get her favorite flowers, which are lilies of the valley, but it's been so cold here back in the Northeast. It's been a very weird spring that, all the greenhouses I went to were like, no, we don't have them yet. Take some azaleas, leave us alone.
I won't tell her if you won't, Jim.
Well, there we go.
I think, yeah.
The other mom in my life, of course, Alice's mom, my ex, Michelle Valladolid, wanted to get her something for Mother's Day, and wanted to show this to you, Drew, because we'll be talking about it later on in today's show. Have you seen this yet? Tom Sito's new book. No,
I love Tom Sito. I would love to read this. Yeah.
This is Tom's long-awaited memoir. Drawing life back into animation, a personal journey through the toon renaissance of the 1990s. And what's kind of interesting about this book, folks, came out in March of this year, March 19th. It's from CRC Press. And by the way, that's the exact same company that did Bill Croyer's memoir last year, Mr. In Between, my life in the middle of the animation revolution. And I got to tell you, folks, just sort of teasing what Drew and I will be talking about later on in today's show, but what's great about these two books is they give you a front row seat as to what happened in the 80s and the 90s, which is when feature animation and Hollywood went from what genuinely seemed like a dying art form to this box office behemoth.
Any idea why this book is $80, Jim?
Well, now it's interesting you bring this up, because last year when we did a segment on this show about Mr. Croyer's book, I want to say that one was $60. Now, if you go to Amazon right now, I want to say that it's down to like $49.
Let me see. Right now, Jim, it is $81, and the hardcover is $180.
Okay.
So,
are we talking about Mr. Sito's book or Mr. Croyer's book?
This is Mr. Sito's book, yes.
Okay, try Mr. Croyer's book as well. That's Mr. In Between. Because, I hate to say this. I think at this price point, CRC they're selling these as textbooks.
Okay, yeah, Bill's book is actually only 33. So.
All right, there we go. Okay, so I mean,
so it could come down.
Could come down. And we'll talk further about these books and those price points later on in today's show. But also wanted to mention another animation-related book that just came out. In fact, I got this for Alice. In fact, I'm waiting for this book to show up at the house so I can then mail Michelle her Mother's Day present. But this is Fiendish Monsters: The Horror Art of Bruce Timm, and I
just got it, Jim. I just got it in the mail a few days ago. Yes, I love it.
Okay,
yeah.
Can you explain what this is? Because look, anybody in animation animation fan knows about Bruce Timm. I mean, this is Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond. But this isn't necessarily his DC art. This is his own personal, because I guess he's a fan of the classic Universal monsters or monsters in general.
Absolutely. The cover art is Frankenstein the monster grabbing the Wolfman by the throat, and it is incredible. Of course, while a very Bruce Timmish young woman is in the background, not wearing a lot of clothing. But yeah, a lot of this is personal artwork. Rare spot illustrations, unpublished alternate versions, and experimental pieces is how the book describes it. And it's a very it's a small book. I wish it was longer. But
it's only 80 pages. It's a paperback. I mean, I ordered my copy through Stuart Ning, and and again, it was more a case of Alice was interested in, I wanted to get it for her so she could have it in her reference library, and it's coming to the house, so I get to eyeball it and then move it on. But I'm always fascinated when have you seen the prices? For example, we were just talking about $180 and $180 for the hardcover of the new Tom Sito memoir. But have you seen what the Art of Batman the Animated Series is going for on the secondary market? Like $300?
Well, I was going to say even recently the Naughty and Nice, the Good Girl art of Bruce Timm, which is sort of his pinup stuff, is going for $200 used.
There we go.
That's why I'd say however much this costs you, you should probably get it. I mean the Batman animated book, I always loved, Jim, because I love the Chip Kid cover as a connoisseur of extremely 90s kind of iconography. Paperback, Jim, it's going for $80. Hardcover, you're looking at a cool $513.
There we go. So, just, I hate to start the show on such a mercenary note. And speaking of mercenary notes, we should acknowledge our sponsor, which is unlockmagic.com, the go-to place for the best deals in theme park tickets. If a Disney or Universal trip is anywhere on your radar for 2026, Unlock Magic helps you lock in great ticket prices without the stress, all handled by people who really know the parks. More importantly, know how to save you money. So if you're starting to think, okay, maybe this is the year we finally go, head to unlockmagic.com to grab the best ticket prices and then make your future trip just a little bit more magical. And okay, so this is the part of the show where we typically talk about what's been going on at the domestic box office. And this weekend was the Battle of the Twos, right, Drew? We had Mortal Kombat II versus the Devil Wears Prada 2, starting its second weekend in theaters. And were you surprised to see the second Prada film come out on top here?
Well, I mean, it was very neck and neck all weekend. But yeah, I mean, people really love this movie. When I went to do my Gene Simmons Q&A last weekend, which we will never speak of again. He's a little bit of a loose cannon, Jim. I mean, I was happy just to kind of sit there and try to lasso the hurricane. But, he...
Wow. Okay.
There were a lot of people walking up as I was just hanging out in the lobby, taking photos with the standees. They all had their popcorn buckets. The Devil Wears Prada is a real kind of phenomenon, it feels like, and catering to a very specific subset. I think that's what was kind of nice about the bifurcation of the box office this weekend, was because Mortal Kombat obviously catering to a lot of young males, and Devil Wears Prada, was largely female-centered, but certainly, fun for the whole family. So it's just nice to see so many movies making so much money.
Yeah.
I mean, not Animal Farm, Jim, but about everything else.
Yeah. And what's interesting, just this past week, Nancy went out twice to the movies with her lady friends. And I want to say on Tuesday, she saw Devil Wears Prada, and they all had a wonderful time. But she also saw Michael, which is our number 3 movie at the box office this past weekend, and said, that was very enjoyable as well. Though we should note
it's got amazing staying power. I'm very curious actually to see if Michael or Super Mario will actually make more money.
Oh, that's
I know that Super Mario is just opened in Japan and is doing like crazy business, but yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah, now mind you, Super Mario this past weekend domestically was 6th at the box office, but number 4 actually, was Sheep Detective, which I'm always kind of intrigued as on a show like ours, Fine Tuning, where face it, this is a film that has an amazing amount of CG in it, but it's also live action. And, but again, it did very well at the box office. This Amazon MGM did nearly $16 million and sort of overperformed at the box office, got great reviews. What did you think, Drew?
I haven't seen it yet, Jim. I'm dying to see it. My buddies Chris and Phil executive produced it and helped out, and I've heard just nothing but good things about it. But if Amazon ever did a screening that was not at its GD headquarters on the other side of the moon, I maybe could have gotten to it. But yeah, I'm really excited to see it. The reviews are insane. Like it's like a 96 or something, on Rotten Tomatoes. But yeah, a lot of great animation there. I think DNEG, I want to say, was the vendor there. And I can't wait. And we love Hugh Jackman.
We do. We do. But anyway, you mentioned Animal Farm a moment ago, and right, when we were getting ready to record, the numbers was still kind of coming in, folks. So bottom 3 of the top 10 this week it's Hokum, Deepwater, and Animal Farm, but they seem to be sort of duking it out as to who came in 10th. And I kind of feel bad for Andy Serkis. He was, there's some interviews he's done in the past, a week or so, or interviews that are now being published. And he talked about, 15 years trying to get this movie made. And, when you work that hard on a film, you want people to actually watch, some people to come out and watch what you did. And
sometimes I think that passion projects are always better left unmade, because then you can say, oh my God, my Animal Farm was going to be so incredible, and nobody has to see it and say, well, it wasn't very good. Also, I want to correct that Sheep Detectives animation was done by Framestore, Jim. So the same folks that brought Rocky to life in Project Hail Mary also are doing the sheep. So talk about versatility, Jim. Good Lord.
Go. Now, a quick question, because just this past week we learned we were going to get a Planet of the Apes 5, and by the way, those of us who are old enough to remember the original Planet of the Apes series, that's Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, right? The 5th film in the series, back in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Battle and then Conquest. Is that?
No.
Okay.
You're right.
Oh,
It's
Battle.
Battle is the last
Yeah.
one. My mistake. And Paul Williams as an orangutan. But this one, we found out there's a fifth one coming. In fact, it's Matt Shakman, the gentleman who directed Fantastic Four, First Steps, and in fact the same screenwriter of that MCU film, Josh Friedman, and so. But Circus did Caesar in the first three of the new series, right? He didn't come back for the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes?
He did not come back for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, no. I'm very intrigued as to what this movie will be. I'm still waiting for them to drive cars and, pilot helicopters. That's where or some kind of time travel thing. I put up, when they made the announcement, I tweeted it out and said it's time, and put an image from Escape from Planet of the Apes. We can bring back Ricardo Montalban as the kindly circus owner. That's my favorite one, besides the original, obviously.
That one, by the way, there's a throwaway line. I want to say in the news coverage where what is it? Is it Cornelius who goes to Disneyland and drives a Jungle Cruise? Again, as a kid, that's what caught my attention. And speaking of things that caught my attention, Planet Apes 5, in a moment, we'll talk about all of the toys that are coming for Toy Story 5. But before we do that, there's this.
This episode is brought to you by Beneful. Dogs of the world, lend me your ears, snoots, and little toe beans. We've been sitting and staying for boring food for too long. It's time to demand high-quality ingredients, fresh from the pantry. Together with Beneful freshly prepared meals, we can start a mealtime revolution. Can I get a woof woof? Kick boring in the bowl with Beneful freshly prepared meals. Visit Purina.com/Beneful to shop now.
And we're back. Before we plunge into the second news segment of the show, and again, Drew just referred to having moderated a panel with Gene Simmons, and evidently we're not allowed to talk about it. Is there anything coming up this week for you moderating?
Not this week. Mm-hmm. No, I think I have something with the Madison on the 31st, but I don't know if that's Guild or not. But when we record next weekend, Jim, I will have more information and I will share it. But it will be a wonderful panel with the whole Below the Line team on that Taylor Sheridan show. So, yeah, that'll be fun.
Can't wait.
This is my Texas bona fides coming through, Jim, is doing all of the Taylor Sheridan stuff, so...
That is good to hear.
That's all I'm good for.
All right. Now, but again, Drew gets to do, fun panels with actual celebrities. Me, a highlight of my week is going to Target and getting cat litter. But I, was just over there, and what was fascinating, Drew, is the Toy Story 5 end cap has been set up, and what's interesting is it's literally one aisle over from the Super Mario Galaxy end cap, and just an interesting bend on how one film approaches merchandising versus and again, Super Mario is a sequel, Toy Story 5 is definitely a sequel, but this one it was they have toys at 3 different price points. They have a what they call the play scale, Woody, Buzz, Jesse, and Rex, and that's going for $9.99. They also have what they call the Celebration Collection, and these are just wonderful to display. Handsome-looking Toy Story characters for $53.99, and then have you seen this Ultimate Action Edition version of Woody, Buzz, and Jesse, where they talk to each other? They have animatronic.
They have very expressive faces that some would call nightmarish, but I would never. Right? Isn't that they have like very like wide faces that I'm assuming move or something when they're talking to each other.
They do. And these, depending, I want to say Target had them for $86.99, but this was the notion of, depending on where you are in your fandom and what you want from your Toy Story 5 toys, you have choice. You also have, and again, a weird parallel between Super Mario Galaxy and Toy Story 5. I want to say on a recent episode of this podcast, we talked about those strange, what was it, Old Spice, where, you could, what is it? You could have a Cosmic Quest scent that was supposed to be Mario themed, or a Desert Detour Luigi themed, or Brooklyn Bounce that was Yoshi. These Dr. Squatch soap is doing the same thing with the Toy Story 5 film.
This is great to hear, Jim. I'm a big Dr. Squatch guy.
Are you really?
If they ever want to send anything my way, if they're listening, they want to sponsor the podcast, I love Dr. Squatch.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I love the packaging. Just sort of walked up and it's like, oh, that's handsome. But it's just sort of like, I want to know, I want to be in the meeting where it's the notion of, that soap. Toy Story can definitely sell soap. But speaking of Toy Story 5, now, you've done the long lead, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is the actual press event prior to the release coming up anytime soon?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's coming up in June.
Mm-hmm.
So I will be attending that.
Okay.
But I thought I still can't say anything, but I've seen like half the movie. So
okay, all right.
How about that?
Well,
you guys haven't seen half the movie. Well, Jim, you haven't. I know you haven't.
No, absolutely not.
Cheap night at the,
but what's fascinating to me, EW has just done its summer movies preview issue, and they had an extended interview with Andrew Stanton. When are you allowed to actually, run stuff from the long lead?
The 26th.
The 26th. Okay.
So I will have some in-depth. I'll have stuff that makes that Entertainment Weekly article, Jim, look like you're just skimming the surface.
All
okay,
right.
That's how in-depth I'm going for. Because I talked to Bob Pauly, who we love, Jim, and another gentleman whose name escapes me. But there'll be some big stuff from that. So
okay,
look forward to that.
Because Nick Romano for Entertainment Weekly sat down with Andrew Stanton. And, it was interesting was Stanton talking about, for example, he supposedly thought that Finding Dory would be his last, directing at Pixar thing. And then he kind of got roped back into doing 5. And I guess the other thing that's kind of fascinating about this is that, at least according to this EW article, that Stanton, sort of referred to the fact that there may be material for 2 more Toy Story movies, but again, stepping away from Bonnie yet again.
There is a season turn, Jim. I would have loved to see a movie completely set with Woody and Bo out on the road, rescuing toys. But I cannot confirm or deny if that is indeed a plot point. In this movie.
And just to be clear here, Toy Story 5 arrives in theaters on June 19th, and almost immediately behind that, 2 weeks out, is Minions and Monsters. No verses. That's July 1st. And Drew, you noticed that we have a final trailer for that. And what do we think of this, how this Illumination movie looks?
I think it looks really cute. I think this is going to be my favorite Minions movie for sure. Oh. I love the old Hollywood setting. I love the creatures. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we were pre-gaming before about the Universal Monsters at FanFest nights, and it's like, oh, this maybe should have been the Universal Monsters, thing, but maybe next year, Jim.
Maybe
the Minions
next year.
versus the Universal Monsters, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, again, what I kind of enjoy about this is that Minions and Monsters celebrates old Hollywood, or at least, the trailer suggests that. And it's just so funny when you think about Despicable Me 3 from 2017. We did get to see contemporary Hollywood there. When Balthazar Brad is taking it out on the town for passing him up as a child star. But all right,
that wasn't a very good one, Jim. We don't need to talk about Despicable Me 3.
All right, but again, that one opens July 1st. Just a couple of weeks after that, we get season 15 of King of the Hill that debuts on Hulu, but. Something else worth noting, and again, want to put this on folks' radar. What is it? June 9th, Dragon Striker debuts on Disney XD and then shows up on Disney Plus. And we've been waiting on this show for a while, Drew, right?
Yeah, I don't know if we've been waiting for this or Doomies longer, Jim, in terms of the Disney Channel show that has been promoted longer, but it looks really good.
It does. I mean, I like the trailer, but just to clarify, folks, we first learned that this was coming to Disney XD back in 2022, June, and originally supposed to show up in 2024, and here we are 2 years past that point. I mean, it again, what is it? The conceit of this is a 12-year-old farm boy discovers that he may be the legendary Dragon Striker. And he plays soccer. Is that what this is about? Or
yeah, I mean, it looks sort of Kung Fu Hustle, kind of Shaolin soccer adjacent, but it's obviously very anime inspired, but is being led by two French animation studios, which I love, the Cyber Group Studios and La Cochette, which is not La Cachette, which does Primal, but is a different studio. So I'm very interested in how these sensibilities are going to kind of like mesh and bounce off each other, and now we just need to wait for the Doomies, Jim, to show up, which will happen hopefully sooner rather than later. But we will probably know more in Annecy this year, I think.
And speaking of which, which of course also happens in France, we now know what Netflix is going to be showcasing, and that's pretty impressive in and of itself, right?
Oh yeah, they have so much stuff this year, including a special sidebar about anime and anime-inspired stuff. But yeah, Raygun will be there, including a conversation between Brad Bird and Peter Lord. Steps will be there. The new Ghostbusters show will be there. So it's there's a lot that'll be there, and not Netflix, but Minions and Mayhem Minions and Monsters is opening Annecy this year. So pretty great lineup, I feel like. But yeah, I'm very interested in, we haven't seen anything really from Ghostbusters.
No.
We'll see the first footage from Raygun, and yeah, I just can't wait.
Okay.
It's going to be great.
And while we're talking about animation-related stuff happening in June, there is, of course, Another World, an anime film that was fairly huge in Hong Kong earlier this year, right?
Yeah, I don't know if we can call it anime if it's Chinese, but yes, It is Hong Kong. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for
All
sure.
right.
Yeah, it was like one of the biggest animated movies in Hong Kong ever, and yeah, our friends G Kids will be putting that out.
June 5th. And again, Drew chased down the trailer and amazing visuals, but also kind of, kind of serious looking story, about the Soul Keeper who's, befriends a young girl named Yuri, who he's escorting her from, the world of the living to the world of the dead, and then things go sideways. I don't want to give too much away here, but the visuals in the trailer were amazing. It looks like something definitely worth checking, and so it's theatrical through G Kids, and then eventually showing up where, or
I don't know where their streaming output deal is, but there will most likely be a 4K release, which we also got the news this week that they got the rights to Tekken Kincrete, which if you've never seen is an absolutely fabulous animated feature, and that will be in theaters later this summer and also have a 4K release by the end of the year. So
there we go.
We love our G Kids.
We do.
Releases.
They allow us to have access to so much material that previously just sort of fell through the cracks, at least here in the States. But anyway, we talked earlier in today's show about Tom Sito and his memoir, and when we get back from this break, we'll talk more about drawing life back into animation. But first, there's this.
This spring, Uber Eats has you covered. Whether you're celebrating mom, dad, or your favorite grad, not all of us are great planners, and with the Uber Eats gift hub, you don't have to be. Send flowers, perfume, champagne, or just their favorite meal straight to their door. Gifts arrive in as little as 25 minutes, and you can add a personalized video message for that additional so-not-last-minute touch. So this spring, get a leg up on gift giving with Uber Eats. Last-minute gifts that land every time. Must be 21 or older to purchase alcohol. Product availability varies per region. See app for details.
Zootopia 2 has come home to Disney+.
Let's go!
Get ready for a new case.
We're gonna crack this case and prove we're the greatest partners of all time!
New friends.
You are... Gary the Snake. And your last name? The Snake.
Dream Team.
And new habitats.
Zootopia has a secret reptile population.
You can watch the record-breaking phenomenon at home.
You're clearly working at
Zootopia 2, now available on Disney+, rated PG.
And we're back. Okay, folks, on Fine Tuning, we talk a lot about art of books, and not just because Drew writes them. And by the way, I want to remind you, Art of Wildwood, brand new book Drew's got in the works, coming out on October 6th. That'll be about the brand new Leica film, which Fathom, not G Kids, right? Fathom is putting out in the theaters.
Fathom is putting it out on October 23rd nationwide. So
there we go.
I would expect some more details of the release during Annecy as well this year, Jim. So
okay,
yeah.
Speaking of art of books, want to let you folks know that just this past week, the Art of Star Trek Lower Decks, that was released on May 5th, and this was from IDW Press from Megan Trevino. Showed up here at the house middle of last week, and I loved this show, during the 5 seasons. In fact, it only just wrapped up in December of 2024, but it was just a very affectionate, fun, smartly written show that embraced both classic Trek and the movies and, Next Gen. And it just, to see the craft that went into, straddling all those worlds, it's definitely a book that's worth checking out. On the other hand, another book I am looking forward to that Abrams is bringing out next month on the 23rd, that's The Art of Marvel Animation, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. And those of you who might remember, that was a series that debuted on Disney Plus back in January of last year, 2025. And we got 10 episodes of that, and season 2 will debut on that streaming service later this year sometime, but this was the one that sort of really leaned into the comic book aesthetic when it came to the animation and had a great look. But,
so good.
Yeah,
So good.
Really enjoyed it. So anyway, now back to drawing life back into animation. And, we were just talking about Disney Channel or Disney Plus, which is, of course, where you can watch Hamilton, which is the Broadway show that's famous for the number in the room where it happened. And, that's the thing about Tom Sito. Mr. Sito was in the room where it happened. I mean, he spent the past 50 years working in the animation industry. In fact, just retired from USC last year after 32 years of teaching there. And he was the head of the president of the Animation Guild for a number of years also, Drew, or...
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I did not know that, yeah.
No, he worked the television side, he worked the feature side, and what's wonderful about this book is, so often, he literally has stories that nobody else has ever shared before. Like, take, for example, I mean, Drew and I, if you listen to this podcast at all, Drew and I are huge fans of Roger Rabbit. But he talks about how, for example, it's the final weeks that they're working on Roger Rabbit, Drew. And he talks about how when the cost overruns on the film reached $50 million, Michael Eisner wanted to shut it down. But Katzenberg talks him out of it, and they still have to do the bit at the end of the movie where it's, that scene with all of the characters. And Tom is the animator who's actually assigned to this. And it's like, how the hell do I do this scene? He goes to Richard Williams, the director of the movie. And it's like, it's a shot that has virtually every character in the history of animation in it. And, how do I lock them down? And Richard's like, well, you don't. Just have them dance. That way, when the camera moves, the audience is going to, well, of course the characters are moving. The camera is moving. They're dancing. Don't worry about it. But he then, and all of us who've ever seen this film love that moment, at the very end where, the camera starts to iris in and there's the three characters that are dressed as policemen, and one of them turns to the camera and it's Porky Pig. And he literally closes out the movie with that's all, folks. But there's this is straight from the book here, folks, that a final controversy in the production of Roger Rabbit, erupted when Porky Pig is in the iris out saying that's all, folks. And the Disney people complained that they were paying for most of the production, and the movie's ending on a Warner Brothers character. So the solution was, and they did this at the very last minute, folks, was to have Tinkerbell fly in to tap Porky on the nose with her magic wand. But there was no money left in the budget to do this. And more to the point, most of the crew on the film had since moved on. And so evidently, production coordinator Steve Hineker then goes to the Disney archive and has them pull out the original animation drawings for Tinkerbell at the end of the Walt Disney Presents TV show, and it's that footage that they reuse. It's not new animation.
Wow, I have never heard that before.
Well, no, that's the thing of this book. In fact, that this is what I so enjoyed about this, is that only a Tom Sito has these sorts of stories. Like, for example, Jodie Benson gets hired to voice the Little Mermaid. And to give you some idea of how different it was in the 1980s in animation. So again, she'd been on Broadway and she's telling her friends that, oh, I just got hired to do a voice for a Disney movie. And her friends came back and said, oh, that's too bad you're doing a cartoon. Like my career had just tanked. And when you think about even today, Jodie Benson, makes a living off of Ariel. But again, I want to stress here, there's stories in this that you, again, time and time again, you've never heard before. Like that Tom talks about, we talked just recently on this podcast about, CinemaCon, which back in the day was known as Show West. And so Jeffrey Katzenberg is on stage in Las Vegas promoting The Lion King. And as Jeffrey had previously done, in order to get an audience's attention, they would bring out a live lion and have him on stage with Jeffrey. And evidently this lion was very familiar with Jeffrey, very comfortable with him. And so while Jeffrey's on stage talking, explaining to the audience about this wonderful film that Disney's doing, the lion walks over to him and starts playing with him like he's a cat toy. And it at one point stands up on its hind legs and swats him in the face so hard, knocks Jeffrey's glasses off and splits his lip. And so he's standing on stage bleeding, and the audience is gasping like, oh my God, is this, this going to be Siegfried and Roy too? And Jeffrey's, no, it's a wonderful movie. You should definitely come and see this film. It's stories like this, that coupled with, again, another film that we've talked about on this podcast was Disney's all CG, with live action background, mind you, but all CG Dinosaur. We've talked on this movie about how there was an original end for this film where the Aldara character, the iguanodon, basically got the little monkey characters, which eventually over time become humans, through evolution. But he gets them to the promised land, and then when there's the final meteor strike, he shields them with his body. He sacrifices himself, to save these creatures. And that was the thing, that Disney tested that ending, and evidently there were certain audience members that just couldn't handle that. And so they ended up with the different ending of the movie where, the dinosaurs all lived, the monkeys all lived, and something happened later that caused the extinction of the dinosaurs. But anyway, I'm just going to say this, as Drew mentioned, this is a pricey book. All right. Again, $80 for a paperback, and this is only 182 pages. But on the other hand, again, you only get stories like this from a Tom Sito. So I'm just going to say this, that me personally, I bought a copy of this for Alice's mom for Mother's Day present, and I'm putting it in the mail along with that Bruce Timm book that we mentioned at the top of the show. And I will be springing for a second copy of this because I think it's worth it. The paperback, $80. I can't bring myself to spend $180 for the hardcover. And again, this is from CRC. This is the same folks who did the Bill Croyer book, which, as Drew pointed out, I want to say initially hit the market for $60, came down to $49, is now selling for $33. Is that what you saw, Drew?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, on Amazon right now.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Okay. So if you're willing to wait, I'm betting the price will come down. But again, on the other hand, if you want the sorts of stories that you only get from a Tom Sito who, again, 50 years in the business, worked on everything with everyone, it's worth the investment. But you know what else is worth it, folks? Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. Well, there are nearly 300 episodes of this show that Drew recorded with Charles Hood. But, they are, if you want to sit down and listen to these things, there are so many great behind-the-scenes stories about, films that you love, in addition to the Mission Impossible movies. In fact, that's what I personally really enjoy is about what Drew and Charles did here, is that the people they bring on the show don't just talk about the Mission Impossible movies. They talk about the other projects they work on and shared stories about those, and well worth listening to. And speaking of stuff that potentially also well worth listening to. We have some other podcasts here at Jim Hill Media. We've got Disney Dish that I do with Len Testa. We have the Epic Universal podcast that I do with Eric Hersey. Likewise, I Want That Too. That's our Disney merch podcast that I do with Eric's lovely bride, Lauren. And The Case Forward with Chris Cox. In fact, Len and I will be recording some brand new episodes of that this coming week. And over on Patreon. In fact, just this past Friday, veteran Imagineer Jim Schul, Len, and I recorded a brand new show about the Disney castles. And this coming week, Mr. Schul and I will start working on a history of It's a Small World. Anyway, as we close up shop here, I want to thank Eric Hersey and David Gray for the great job they do with editing and the production of this podcast. And also, again, I want to remind you about The Art of Wildwood, Drew's brand new book, which, again, hit store shelves on October 6th. But as you mentioned, this brand new stop motion film from Leica doesn't show up in theaters till October 23rd from Fathom. Another quick request here, folks. If you could do Drew and I a favor and head over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review, not just this show, but Light the Fuse, that would be nice. Let's see. Social media. Drew, where can the nice folks find you on social media?
On Instagram and X, mostly as Drew Tailored, like a tailored shirt. And Jim, where can people find you?
I'm on X and Instagram as well as Jim Hill Media, and then over on Facebook is Jim Hill Media News. And I guess that's going to do it for this week, folks. So on behalf of Mr. Taylor, I want to thank you for listening to this edition of Fine Tuning, and we will be back next week.